Hello, welcome back to another episode of Autodidactica. I am one of your hosts, Matt Paul.
And I am three of your hosts, Glenn Clark.
Yes, he is three people in one. He's three dwarf people in a trench coat. We keep it PC here at Autodidactica.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't actually know if
it's
that's
in
still a PC term.
PC. Like, if it stands for something other than politically correct, PC is in pretty creepy. We keep it pretty
Yeah,
creepy here at Autodidactica.
we do keep it pretty creepy here at the Auto D.
Auto
Um,
D. That's easier to
So
say.
yeah, last episode we covered Tokyo Ghoul as a bisexual metaphor.
That was a good
So
one.
that was a good one. Check that out. Read the manga before you do.
If
Watch
you
the
want.
anime.
Yeah, because we
Um,
really only talked about the anime. Well, or did we talk about that? I don't
we
remember.
yeah, we talked about Tokyo Ghoul,
Yeah, we talked
but
about all of
mostly
it,
we
but
talked about just the
mostly.
bisexual experience
Yeah,
and
yeah, and then we had
using
one. Oh,
Tokyo Ghoul metaphors.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe he did. Uh, um, not this one. Um, and then so next episode is going to be a fun one. Um, we're doing just basically you'll get to experience firsthand off camera Glenn and Matt is pretty much the idea. It's going to be a nonstop episode of BS, which is pretty much just a night in our kitchen where we're standing there and just going until 6 a.m.
Yeah, just talking. That's
Just
what he means by
talking.
going, just
Yes,
talking.
yes, yes. This week though, fun one. We're doing
This episode, we're trying to break ourselves of the
yeah,
habit of saying
week
this week and last week because we're monthly now.
yeah. So this episode, I mean, technically we are doing this episode this week.
That's
It
true.
is
We
this
are
week's
doing it
topic.
this week.
Yeah,
So
we
you're
are at
not
a point
wrong.
in time that could be described as this
Our
week.
our space-time address.
Yes, tiny thoughts on an endless timeline. This week could be used to describe this dot. Um,
Right.
but this episode is going to be a fun one. Something that I've gone back and forth with through my own personal journey. Um, and it is it possible to live without regret?
Hmm.
And so we'll be diving in, probably getting a little bit vulnerable here and there as I was thinking about this episode throughout the day. Like it's hard to do an episode talking about with regret without getting a little vulnerable and
Oh
telling some
yeah,
personal
yeah.
stories about maybe things you do regret because
True.
just right off the rip as a diving right in as a word itself, I don't think it's possible to live without regret. Like as the
Hmm.
way we use the term, I think everybody's got regrets.
Ah.
And but if you dive deeper into what regret really means
Hmm.
and as like without connotation, I
Right.
think it absolutely is possible to live without regret. If I bring up the definition,
Yeah, I'm curious now because you've said you think it's impossible to live without regret and also it's possible. So I'm curious
feel sad,
what you're talking
repentant,
about.
disappointed over something
Hmm.
that has already been done,
Right.
especially a loss or missed opportunity.
Hmm.
As a verb, as a noun, a feeling of sadness, repentance, or disappointment. So pretty much the same thing. She expressed her regret at Virginia's death. Um, and she immediately regretted her words as a verb. And so for me, like feeling sad, repented, or disappointed over something that's already happened, maybe, you know, taking it too far. Like when I think of things that I regret that I have done, I guess it's easier to talk about like, I look back on them. I don't dwell on things for too long. I try not to at least. And like
Hmm.
things that I can say that I regret, I quickly turn the page on that. When I
Hmm.
think that I regret something And when you think, once again, maybe a little theme, tiny dots on an endless timeline,
Right.
little life events that happen here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I always go back to thinking about how every one of them shapes where you are now. And like, I'm, as a person, a nice, healthy mix of realism and optimism,
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of existentialism mixed in there here and there.
Right.
But I'd say I'm like a 50 like a 50-40-10 for realism, optimism, and existentialism as my worldview.
Okay.
And so whenever I think about things that I do regret, I can quickly turn around and say, well, I like where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
And were it not for what I have already done, accomplished, or failed at, I would not be where I'm at now. I would
Right.
not, I would not have the life that I have now. And
Mm-hmm.
were I to do something different, sure, my life would look different now. But would this have happened? Would X have happened? Would Y have happened? Would I have met this person? Or would I have been strong enough to let go of that person were it not for the amalgamation of my life's events?
Right.
So yeah, just my initial thoughts, something I
Mm-hmm.
constantly bounce around.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. Like, I kind of have always had the goal. Well, not always, but I guess since my late teens or early 20s, I started kind of actively trying to eliminate regret from my life and more like looking at things that I had felt regret about. I mean, when I was a teenager, I felt some regret about some things that I couldn't let go of. But then, it's kind of just I started reframing and like looking at those things and saying, well, what did I learn from it? What was the gift of that experience that I think I wish I never had? And then I find the gift and I don't regret it anymore because I see what I gained from having gone through that, from having made that mistake. And a lot of it mostly had to do with hurting people. Um, those are the kinds of things I regret, where I misstep somewhere, which I did a lot as a teenager. Um,
As most teenagers do.
right, right. And I mean, I had some doozies. Like there was one I just, we'll probably get into when we start getting vulnerable.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, so like I've always tried, and I think like right now, I don't feel like I have any true regrets, but I'm constantly having to stay on top of myself. Like,
To not regret the things that you would otherwise.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like in the moment, start reframing. Like, okay, I messed up. People mess up. So immediately, how do I turn this around? Where's the gift here? I'm learning obviously that what I did was dumb, so I'm not going to do that again. There's a gift.
Right.
Like my dad said something though once that I thought was profound. Not that he's only ever said one profound thing, but
Most dads don't.
right. But this is the one that really stuck with me that applies to this topic because you also, in order to live without regret, you've got to be able to forgive yourself. You've
Right.
got to you've got to treat yourself with some compassion like you would another person in the same scenario. But my dad said, "You never stop being stupid." Like I remember this
Amen.
night very clearly, and he was just talking about stuff. He was like, you always get to a point where you think, I am too old to be this stupid. I'm too old to be making this mistake, but here I am. And that's what he was saying. He's like, but you realize you never stop being stupid. You just have to like deal with it and move forward.
Yeah,
Like
you just get better at dealing with your own stupidity.
yeah, exactly. And everybody's stupid. Like here and
Right.
there. Like
Right.
everybody has their moments.
Yeah, everybody accidentally, buys a car at 19% interest rate when they're 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, not
yeah,
everybody,
not everybody.
but
But
everybody has something like that.
right, and then you realize later that that was a very dumb idea. I should have done this, I should have done that. And so
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to regret.
Yeah.
But like I think so to answer the question, I think it is possible to live without regret. Now that we've talked this out a little bit, I don't think it's possible to never have regret, to never feel regret.
Okay, yeah.
But it is
Because yeah,
possible to live without it.
mm-hmm.
Like you can regret things. You are allowed to regret them in the moment when you
Mm-hmm.
realize where you went wrong, how you may have altered the course of your life by making a mistake or making a choice rather and
Yeah.
regretting that choice. But then you can learn to forgive yourself, be
Mm-hmm.
compassionate to yourself, and let go, and then take steps, affirmative action to maybe try to get back to that course that you would have been on had you made a different choice at that fork in the road, whatever it may have been.
Right.
So it is possible to live without that sort of regret
Uh-huh.
because you can let it go. You are allowed to
Right.
regret things,
Right.
but there's the common idiom of drowning in regret,
Right.
where you
Mm-hmm.
are at a point where you are thinking about all of your life choices. And if I just did this, or if I just did that, if I would have worked a little harder at this or that, my life would
Yeah.
be different now. And oftentimes, I've never had that sort of existential crisis
Mm-hmm.
myself. I've never been so hard on myself to where I have been curled up in bed at night thinking over every one of my life choices and
Mm-hmm.
how I made the wrong choice at every turn.
Yeah.
Um, Part of that may be that I make pretty good choices.
Hmm.
Um, Part of that may also be that I've just never felt so strongly about any of my choices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or I dissociate one choice from the next to the point where like I'm able to see like a larger picture
Right.
from an external vantage point. Maybe I'm a little more talented than person X that I'm using as an example here,
Mm-hmm.
who's drowning in regret. Maybe I'm able to see, my life from a different vantage and all the different branches. Because to me, I can't look at one choice in my life without thinking how that choice led me to two or more different choices. Each one of
Right.
those choices led me to two or more different choices, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So I can't trace, it's impossible to trace your life down to a singular choice or a series of choices.
Right. I mean, it could, if there's something big, like if you go to Vegas and gamble away all the rent money and lose your home and lose your family and lose everything, and you can always look back 10 years later when you're a homeless person on the
Right, with
street, like,
no family, no
right, and just
friends,
nothing, everybody hates you. Like, you can look back and you can definitely pinpoint
a
one choice,
singular.
a single event that you regret and wish you had never done, wish you'd made a different choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what I was trying to drive home is you can definitely look back to that one choice, but I don't think you can blame the other choices. Like, I think it's like, yeah, maybe you're an alcoholic and that's what led you to that.
Hmm.
Maybe you had a broken home, and that's what led you to alcoholism.
Right,
And
right.
but I think all of that is, I think it's reaching too far. I think, I don't think you can trace it all the way back to your childhood.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
and
stuff you
like,
regret, sure. I don't think so because you can't, well, you can, but it's not rational. Like, I don't think it's
right.
rational to blame your inner child, your past child self for bad choices they make. I think, one of those reframing techniques is to look at your child self as a child separate from yourself. How are you going to counsel them through their regret? You're not gonna harp on because they're kid. It's a kid, but when it's you yourself, it's kind of like you can get in the trap of holding yourself accountable as an adult for mistakes you made as a child or an adolescent. Um,
Right.
and a lot of people do. I don't. That's one thing I've done too, like, and I do it to other people, is like I have certain ages that I consider wipe the slate clean ages. Like, and then that's kind of weird, but
No,
I don't
no,
know.
it makes
It's
sense.
like I think 19. Somebody gets to 19, I don't care what you did when you were 15 or 8, you
Right.
know. Like I think 12 is one. It's like, well, forget all the dumb stuff you did as a kid. Clean slate. You're gonna do all new dumb stuff now.
Right.
But for the moment, clean slate. And up to 25, I think. It's like because everything before 25, I can blame on the fact that the judgment center of your brain has not fully developed. So, of course, you're more prone to making bad decisions or rash decisions. Rash decisions, I think, are where a lot of bad decisions come from.
Right.
Just not really thinking something through.
Or having a different idea of how something will play out.
Right, right. Yeah, that too. When it just,
That
you
was me
make a
when I was a
choice.
teenager.
Yeah.
I thought this would, I thought, going to this party was going to play out like it does in Hollywood movies.
Hmm.
But then people start shooting each other and the cops come. And it's like, that was not how I pictured this night going.
Uh-huh.
And I am 17 and need to get the hell out of here.
Hmm.
And, like I've already said, I think it's possible to live by letting go, of your regrets, but
Yeah. But you're still
I
gonna
don't think
feel it.
I don't think it's possible to ask somebody, do you have any regrets? And even if they say no, things aren't going to pop up in their head.
Right. Well, you could say,
Like
have you ever felt
regretted.
regret? Have you ever
Right.
felt regret or remorse? I don't think there's much of a difference, if any,
Definition
for
wise,
a
there
decision
is.
that you made. Yeah, I guess you're
Yeah.
right, because
Yeah. Well,
remorse
because
is only a
regret,
factor of regret.
right, it is the number one similar according to Google is remorse.
Okay.
But regret is the emotion of wishing one had made a different decision in the past.
See, to me
Be,
that's regret.
because the consequences, well, that's regret. That's what I meant.
Yeah. That's
Regret is related to
all of
perceived opportunity. Well, whereas remorse is okay. Yeah, I mean, it's um, remorse is something you did to someone. Is more of
mm.
what I would you
Oh, I
express
see. I
remorse
see.
for
So you could regret,
sleeping with your friend's girlfriend or something.
yeah,
Like you can regret that, but you can also express remorse for having
right.
done so.
Like you feel truly sorry for it. It's not like you regret not going to a party that it
Right.
turned out to have been a lot more fun than you thought it was going to be.
Right.
People
And you can
showed up you hadn't
exaggerate.
seen in years. Yeah, you just regret it, but you don't have remorse
Right. And you could
because you didn't
exaggerate
do a
by
thing.
using remorse.
Yeah,
Like
true.
you could be so regretful that you feel remorse for not going to that party
Hmm.
where, your ex-wife was that you were on really good terms with but haven't seen in 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And you would have really liked to have seen her, but now she's flown back to San Francisco and you're never going to see her again.
Hmm.
But you know, yeah, so I don't think it's possible to like have nothing that pops up in your head when you ask someone, have you ever felt regret?
Yeah.
Everybody has felt it.
Hmm.
It's like I said, getting vulnerable, but this is probably very similar to what
Hmm.
a lot of people have felt. Like I regret like not going to college,
Mm.
right out of high school. I regret, having, that is something that I contend with, you know, here and then. And like I said, it's a fleeting thing. I'm not constantly like drowning in regret for having not gone to college and fresh out of high school gotten my bachelor's or master's
Hmm.
and joined the workforce like the American dream tells you to. But I'm not constantly, it doesn't keep me up at night.
Hmm.
But like I know people that have taken that route and they are on very, very kind trajectories. Not everybody. Um,
Kind trajectories. What do you
yes,
mean?
like because they're basically that was just sort of a response to a lot of people saying, you know, getting your master's degree just ends up putting you in a ton of debt and
Yeah.
you don't get the job you sought for. But I know people that did go to college, did get a degree in their field, did get a job in their field, and are only going to continue to improve. And they did it so right that I can see where others go wrong, I guess is what I could say. You know, for one, people getting degrees in fields that don't have nice job opportunities, you could
Hmm.
say that that was maybe a poor decision. Um, no, power to them. I have no
It's
degrees.
right. I
So,
mean,
but
exactly.
like in like the art community, getting a degree in art is largely a joke because you paid a ton of money at a top grade
Uh-huh.
university to get a
Right.
piece of paper that says art.
Right.
Whereas
And there's not much you can do with that degree, but
no,
at the same time, it depends on what field you're going into, it depends on the bliss you're following, if you're following your bliss, and I highly recommend it. Um, because you can do things on the side with your art knowledge if you get that degree, but the degree, it doesn't matter what it's in. Like if a job requires a master's degree and you have a master's degree in art, you have a master's degree, which is why most people don't wind up. I mean, you're stats guy, but I'm pretty sure the statistics say most people do not wind up working in the field in which they got a degree. Like you get a degree in art, but you don't wind up working in that degree, but your degree still helps you get jobs, you
right,
know?
but you're not going to get a job in an engineering firm
Right.
with
Like if it
an
is
art.
if it requires specialized skills,
Right.
yeah. But like there's a lot you can do just like because now like the master's degree has become the new bachelor's degree.
No, it
Like
definitely has.
everybody requires a master's degree.
And
Um,
there are so many jobs out there,
and I don't care
like
what it's in. Oh, but go
right.
on.
No, and that's what I was getting at is like there are jobs out there that I'm just not aware of.
Hmm.
There are so many jobs nowadays. It's not just coal miner or teacher. Like,
Those were our only choices
yeah,
when we were
coal miner,
children.
carpenter,
So when you grow
logger,
up, are you going to be a
or
coal miner or a teacher?
construction worker, steel worker. Nowadays, like especially with the IT revolution,
Hmm.
there are so many technical jobs. Like I 100% agree that the best degree you can get is computer science.
Hmm.
Like computer science is the degree to be going after if you want
Right.
job opportunities. Because everything's online now. Every bake store on Fifth Avenue needs a website and needs a computer engineer, somebody who is very savvy with code
Hmm.
and uh, and networks and all of the IT aspects of a business. Like everything is online. So computer science, I yeah, that's what I would say to my kid if I had one. I was like, you should be aiming for a computer science degree because that is the most applicable to almost every job out there now.
Hmm.
Um, And, now I wouldn't push them so hard to where I'd snap their guitars in half, and, and say, what? You want to go to Berkeley to study jazz musician performance? Like,
Like there's a college where you can major in Madonna. It used to be a
oh,
thing.
there's a Taylor Swift uh, class at Harvard now.
Yeah,
And
class. Like
yeah, class.
it
There's a
still
Taylor
is
Swift class. And
like
it's
see,
basically a business class,
see, I would be the kind of college professor who did classes like that, but they were like they had depth. Like
right?
I'd have some hook that's kind of fun. I love that kind of stuff. You trick people into getting a good education.
Right. No, but that is one of my what I could qualify as a regret. Um,
Not going to college.
not going to college fresh out of high school, or just like I did go to college. I just didn't take it seriously.
Oh,
Um,
same. I mean,
like
but I
I
did. Well, but go on.
I didn't heed my dad's warning
Hmm.
about working part-time while going to
Oh,
college.
right.
He told me to be very careful, because once you start earning money, you start piling up financial responsibilities when you're earning money. And so like,
Hmm.
it eventually got to where like I just didn't have time for college anymore because now I had bills to pay. Like
Yeah.
I had,
Yeah.
subscriptions that I was a part of. I liked having extra income, and people do it.
Hmm.
Like I'm not saying it's impossible to have part-time job. I think where I screwed up was I had never had one. And so
Hmm.
like I didn't learn the skills of balancing work and school while I was in high school.
Yeah, they don't really teach it.
Well,
Like
it's
at
not
least
it's not
not
something they can teach.
right. Like they
It's something
could.
you do have to learn. I
Yeah.
I feel like it's something your parents are
Somebody
responsible
should
for
be
teaching.
teaching you work-life balance.
I think it's largely um like it's an experience
Yeah.
thing. An experience combined with somewhat with accountability.
Hmm.
Like, if you are in a good parent household, a good two
Right.
parent household with good relationships with your folks, like I would not be opposed to my 16-year-old getting a job, a part-time
Right.
gig,
No.
15 hours a week, you know,
Yeah.
maybe one school night a week, and then you get the weekends to work if you wanna.
Hmm.
But and then just have them recognize that, oh, look, your grades have suffered.
Hmm.
And then sit down and talk to them. Are you balancing your work school load correctly to where, yes, having money is nice, but your grades are dropping.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to, if you're going to continue to work, you need to learn how to balance these two things.
Hmm.
And, as an 18-year-old, got my first job, and I was like, I got my first paycheck. It was a whopping $300. It was the most money Matt
Yeah.
Paul had ever had at his disposal.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get no allowance growing up. Like I wasn't poor, but we weren't well off
Right.
either. My dad took care of everything, and I had opportunities to play little league baseball, basketball, all that
Yeah.
stuff, and go to guitar lessons and boy scouts and all sorts of extracurriculars, but there was never cold hard cash put into Matt's hand and said go have fun.
Hmm.
So I think that's something that I would do as a parent. I think allowance is important.
Yeah.
um
Yeah,
I think
because it teaches, if you do it right, it teaches kids about money. If you do it wrong, it teaches kids to be entitled.
entitled, I absolutely agree. You know I think that it does do a lot for teaching financial responsibility,
Hmm.
and it ingrains it at a young age too. Now, my dad tried, but his idea of allowance was underpaid forced labor.
Mhm.
And like all that taught me
Right.
was like, I don't want to
That's
do
what,
this.
yeah, I mean, I got what, $2 a week, and you had
Yeah.
this big list of chores
Yeah.
that
No.
you have
And
to do in order to earn your $2 a week. And I was saving up, like when I was 8 years old, I was saving up for Snake Mountain because Skeletor needed a home, and it was $40. I got $2 a week.
yeah.
I
So
think I
20
finally just
weeks
got it for my
later.
birthday, but
Yeah, exactly. Like that was the only time I got stuff as a kid
uh-huh.
was birthday, Christmas, Easter.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we did
Those were the
my family did the mini Christmas on Easter basically. Like
right,
I
yeah.
got an Easter basket which usually
So did I.
contained a video
Presents.
game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for me.
Yeah, it was usually just like a video game, maybe some guitar picks
Yeah.
or like some little things here and there. But no, like yeah, my dad wanted me to we had a very large yard at both of the houses that I grew up at.
Uh-huh.
And we had a push mower and my dad wanted to give me $5. And I was like, this is brutal. It is August in Texas and
Mm-hmm.
I'm 10 years old trying to push a steel push mower, like non self propelled mower. And
Yeah.
then I do it. And my dad's like, you did a shit job on this.
Yeah.
Go back out there and fix it.
Uh,
And I'm
for
just like, I'm
five
10. Like,
dollars.
I'm 10.
But yeah.
And then
But
he's like, if you want to earn more money, you need to talk to some of your mom and dad's friends and go mow their lawns. And I
mhm.
was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I did to one of our mutual friends the A days.
Oh yeah.
And A Day had a massive yard, like six
Gosh,
times the size of my
they
yard.
could build like several houses in their backyard. It's
And they and
huge.
they've got trees with
Yes.
roots that come out.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave me $15 for the whole front and back.
No. But of course, that's the whole thing. Like parents, they exploit their child labor. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know
exactly.
that it's
And
wrong if it's your parents though and their friends. They're just trying to teach you to work and earn money. Like, what are you gonna
all
go?
they taught me was that it would cost y'all $100 from a lawn surface. And I'm
Right.
doing this
For
mess like that.
15.
That's all it taught me was it taught me market rate.
Yeah.
But try telling that to your parents. Like, and, I'm sure, were there any boomers watching this, they'd be like, this entitled generation doesn't know how to work hard. And, you should be grateful for the opportunity to earn $5. And I'm just like, yeah, but I quickly learned that $5 was not equal compensation for what I'm doing. And like, yeah, there is the argument of they pay all the bills, they put the roof over my head, I'm not paying
Yeah,
rent there.
and yeah, you're a child. Like,
Now, like I am a child, but all it taught me was that this is not worth the $5.
mm-hmm.
Like, so maybe I would do it a little differently. I'd probably offer my kid $20 for the front and backyard. I feel like that's fair.
How
But
much, like when you were a teenager, how much did my mom pay you for her yard when you briefly did that?
oh yeah, no, and it was not a lot either.
No, and
Um,
she was a tyrant.
it,
I
it was
always
like
felt that's why I wouldn't mow her yard. I just would not do it.
it
But
was like
she
it
was
was like $15, and
15,
it
15.
and
You're
it
kidding me. It had to have been
and it
more than
just
that.
it was 15, maybe 20. All I know is it was not worth it.
Right,
Like,
because she'd try to get more out of people than she initially hired them to do. And I'm like, Mom, if you want them to do more work, you have to pay them more money. Like she
yeah,
was trying to get, I think, Rolf, he was your successor, and she was trying to get him to like put up tiki torches and stuff. And I'm like, Mom, when you called Rolf over here, what was it for?
yeah. No, the
Like,
the main thing with your house, your mom's house, was
uh,
I hated those damn retaining walls.
yes.
I
They
hated
were
those
so
damn retaining walls.
weirdly
Yeah,
like
like it was a small lot, but it took a
Uh-huh.
lot of work to mow
Mm-hmm. It really
because
did.
to mow to standard, I should say.
Yeah.
Like, if it were my house, I could dick around a little bit and just mow the parts people are going to see. But when you're doing it for money, you need to mow the yard
Right. Needs to be
and
done well.
it needs to be done well. And so, and then you had that tree in the backyard that was had
Right.
branches touching the
Touching
ground,
the ground. And that was my I loved
little
having like I put a
canopy.
little table under there. It was
Yeah,
great when it was blooming, but mowing, that was a nightmare.
yeah, because you're having to push through tree branches on the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And but yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So I do, back to the topic. I do regret not not seeing how I had so many paths at 19 years old, a freshman in college,
Uh-huh.
and I basically shut myself out of them for $9 an hour at Starbucks.
Yeah, yeah. Like I started feeling that I'd been working at Bookstop, which was a Barnes and Noble subsidiary back in the day. And I was like watching people, like that I was working with. Like, yeah, there were a lot of people my age, early 20s. That's actually where I met Molly, my friend who works with me on a lot of publications, does illustrations. Um, but yeah, like I noticed the old people who were working retail with me. And that started really making me feel regret for not going to college because I'm like, I don't want to be here when I'm 80. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want to be working retail for crap pay. Um, I want options. And that's when I got it in my head to go back to school. And I finally did because I didn't take it seriously the first time. I wasn't really into it. Um,
right. I was burnt out from high school.
Seriously, like high school was an ordeal for me.
And it is
Last
for
thing I
everybody.
wanted for was more school. But like, yeah, it is for everybody. And um but yeah, I finally got to the point where I was taking college seriously, but then crises would happen and so have yet to finish, but I don't feel regret anymore for not going to college earlier because I can look back at my life, and I've had all these weird jobs throughout my life too. Like I've had so many unique experiences. Like just going down and listing all the very different jobs I've had throughout my life is one thing that's just like I did all of that. I have all that experience. And then when I was a youth minister for 8 years, which is one of those crazy jobs that, I was able to counsel kids when they were trying to get jobs and stuff and do money. And, I was able to basically relate to everyone, regardless of what kind of job they were doing, because I'd done them all. Like it was good. And I valued that. And I value that I was able to be a youth minister for 8 years. That wouldn't have happened, I think, if I had gone to school, gotten a degree, gotten a career right off the
Right.
bat. And even then, I was planning to go back to school. There just wasn't time to do it. Like to get, because, I worked at UPS for a little while. That was my job before I was a youth minister, loading trailers at UPS for a little under a year, or a little over a year. I don't remember now. And it was like I was going to school at the same time as I was working at UPS because UPS would reimburse you if you brought your report card and you passed everything. So that was one of the benefits to working at UPS. There were a lot of benefits. Um, but that was one of them. But it was so hard to actually do school because that job was exhausting physically. It was kind of like doing a 5 to 8 hour workout every day, nonstop. And then you go to school and try to stay awake. And I had one professor who, like, the final exam in the second history class I was taking, I studied, I knew everything. And I'd aced her class the previous semester, because I guess we had two history requirements.
Yeah, 1301,
Um,
1302.
yeah, so 1302, I took the same professor because I knew all of her ways. I knew how to ace her class. But working at UPS that semester was wiping me out. And I am in there taking the final, and I can't stay awake. And I'm reading the questions on the paper and I can't comprehend them because I'm so tired. And it took me forever to fail that test. And I did. And the professor emailed me, and she was like uh telling me, you know, you made a B for this semester. You would have made an A if you hadn't bombed the final. What happened? I'm like, I was basically asleep because I was working, but I don't know, but I don't regret that either because that was a learning, everything's a learning experience, you know?
Right.
I don't regret all the things that led to me failing that final. Because I learned you have to be careful with what job you're doing while you're going to school.
Yeah,
I
it's sort
don't,
of like whenever I think about regret, things I might regret,
mhm.
it leads me to take stock.
Yes.
And that's what always sort of like puts any regret to bed for
Uh-huh.
me is like, for one thing, I can't imagine, like, or I can only imagine where I would be had I made X choice or Y choice.
Hmm.
And like, we as people, as rational human beings, have quite a fear of the unknown. And that's
Right.
exactly what that is to me.
Mm.
Is like, when I start thinking about the choices I could have made, all of that from then on is unknown to me. Would
Yeah.
it have worked out?
Hmm.
Or would I still be, would I be working a menial job to try and pay off my college debt for the degree that I'm not putting to use? Would I have ended up that statistic to where I'd just be more miserable and in more debt than I am now
Hmm.
because I decided to go and do this or that?
Right.
Um,
You'd have different problems. You'd
right.
still have problems, you
You'd
know?
still have problems because
Your
you never
life would
stop
not be
being stupid.
perfect.
Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. You never
right.
stop being stupid. Thank you,
I just
Dad.
I'd just be stupid with $60,000 in debt fresh out of college,
Right, right.
and
Uh, because
now I've got to now I've got to contend with that. Um, which I for one thing, I was a very meek young man, very non-confrontational,
mhm.
and very go with the flow to my own detriment
Yeah,
sort of young man. I would do a lot to not rock the boat. And so, like, I feel like if I go back to college, which I need to do, it would
yeah.
be a very different experience.
Mhm.
For one thing, my dad's not paying for it.
Yeah.
And it's my money in my pocket, so I'm going to get my
Mhm.
money's worth. For another thing, I'm buying a service from this college. If that service is subpar, I'm gonna let somebody know about it,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna get my money back because I'm paying for a service and this service sucks. Because I can tell you now, like, I took classes from professors that had no business teaching college classes.
So did I.
And I'd complain about it, but only to my friends. I wouldn't
Mhm.
complain about it to the college staff, to the counselors, to
Yeah.
the financial officers and financial people, and I wouldn't complain about it to their executives and whatnot. But yeah, if I took a class now and they tried treating me
Mhm.
like a goddamn kid, like I'd be
Yeah.
like, no, this is dumb. Your class is dumb, and I'm dropping it and getting my money back because this is ridiculous. Because yeah, I took a history class and it was the worst class I had ever taken because she taught it like it was a freshman high school class. Like she
Oh
was
my
treating us
goodness.
all like kids.
Oh, that would get
Um,
all over me as a college student.
it was nothing but stupid projects, like stupid history projects. And I'm just like, okay, so now I know that I need to know what your syllabus is going to look like. Is it going to, like, she wanted, like, the final exam was to find an old person, basically, and interview them about an important event in history.
Huh.
And I'm just like, this is so dumb. What does this have to do with anything in regard to history at large? Like,
Mm.
because to me, history is all what happened during this year in the Roman Empire, or what
Uh-huh.
was significant about this, or write a short answer about why this happened during this time and what caused this war to break out.
Right.
History is very fact of the matter and not so open to interpretation as other things. Why is my entire grade hinging on finding an old guy to tell me about the JFK assassination? Like, I got to take time out of class to get to record and produce. Like, she wanted us to like download a free trial of like Audacity
Uh-huh.
and like upload it there and make sure that you edit it. And I'm like, what is this? A goddamn sound engineering class? I thought I was taking history.
Yeah.
But that's just tip of the iceberg. But again, I was working during that time too.
Oh
You,
yeah.
know, you were talking about UPS being exhausting, and I can definitely see loading trailers being exhausting. But did you ever have hot coffee thrown in your face from Karens at Starbucks? Because that's what I was dealing with
No, but I wouldn't have
for
noticed
ten
because it was
hours
so
a
hot in
day,
those trailers. The hot coffee would have
dude.
cooled me off. But
Right, right.
but
But yeah,
no,
so
I had
I
books
was
thrown at
dealing
me at book stop, but I
I
know
was
by
dealing with a different
customers.
kind of exhausting, and dealing with Starbucks customers.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh my god.
yeah. That would just be
And
mentally exhausting for one thing.
that's what was the final straw for me. Was I was doing okay in some of my classes. Most of my classes were online at that point,
Right.
but I was trying to do a damn test online,
Hmm.
and I had to work that day. And I had my girlfriend at the time bring my laptop up to work on my lunch break so I could take this test. And the freaking Wi-Fi like cut out in the middle of the test, and it wouldn't let me log back in. It said test completed, your answers have been submitted. And I was like, I was only on like question 20 of 50,
Yeah.
and the Wi-Fi connection was lost.
Oh, that's the
And it like
worst.
and it
I
like
had that.
submitted my quest or my test and wouldn't let me log back in to continue it. It said,
Mhm.
because I had to use like a secure browser to make sure I wasn't cheating.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I've done those. I know
and
exactly what you're talking about.
I emailed my professor, and he was a dick.
So was mine. Oh, I can't wait to hear
And
your
yeah,
story.
no, that was pretty much the end of it. He was just like, "Well, you should have, done it outside of work." I was like, "I have a car payment that's
Uh-huh.
due next week."
Yeah,
Like,
it's just not very understanding of just the way the
yeah,
world works. Like mine was, I took it on the last day, but I had all these other, again, I was working. I was doing other classes, not just this one. Like there was so much, like I would just pass out with my face in a school book every night, I did all the reading when I was taking it seriously, when I went back to school. Um, but like, yeah, so I wound up taking, because it was the online classes were go at your own pace. Just as long as you
allegedly,
get this all done by, like, you had little deadlines here and there.
right.
And there was a window for getting each section of the course finished and taking the test. And I did mine on the last day and had the exact same experience you did, pretty much, where just the internet screwed me over, wrecked my test. I didn't even finish it and I failed it. Emailed the professor, and he was blaming me, saying, well, you shouldn't have waited until the last day. And I'm like, well, that's not how the rules work.
Right,
The last day is still an acceptable day to take this test. We have
right,
other things.
absolutely. It
They're
should be
like,
it should be treated as a soft deadline.
yeah,
Like the last day, like it's your job to allow for, to me it's the college's job, the class's job, the professor's job to allow for internet failures,
yeah,
screw ups, things like that. And
even
so
on
that
the
should be
last day.
last day, the last day to attempt it. I wholeheartedly agree that it is very as much um applicable as the first day to do it.
Mhm.
Like I budgeted my time. I did this correctly. I budgeted my time to allow me to complete all of the
Yeah,
tasks.
exactly. And that's what I did.
And
Like I
now
had
I'm
it
being
all blocked
punished
out.
for it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I mean, that's probably my biggest regret. I mean, I have other like interpersonal regrets
Yeah,
from time to time. But again, they don't last long.
right.
Um, they, like with my dad passing this last year,
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, I have regrets that come with that.
Yeah.
Like, things like, I should have spent more time with them and yada yada. But it's like all it does is it leads me to be grateful for the time that I did spend with them.
Hmm.
And so it's like less that I regret that and more that just life's not fair for one thing. But
Yeah.
it is, life can be cruel in that regard.
Yeah.
Um, but those are like very fleeting, so they're not even really worth touching on. Like, I've had girlfriends where it's just like, yeah, looking back, I was a bit of the problem.
Hmm.
Like, I didn't express myself properly, or I expressed myself too much, or I expressed parts of myself that, when I was, in a bad headspace and should have taken more time to think about it.
Hmm.
And like, you know, there are those sorts of things, but it's like those are such slam dunk life lessons for me now
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's like they're not even, I don't even dwell on them at all. I'm like, yeah, remember that one time that I did this and said that? Yep, that was a good lesson. And or picking up on red flags from people, like when I'm just initiating a relationship, be it
Hmm.
friendship or romantic. you know those are all life lessons. Like, boy, I regret not noticing those signs, but it's like less that I regret it and more than I'm grateful that I've gone through that and can now
Yeah.
recognize things. So like regret is such a strong word to me, I guess, which is
It
what
is.
this podcast, I suppose, is really about. When we were brainstorming
Topics.
the topics,
Yeah.
regret is such a strong word that I don't like it.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like it carries such a negative connotation. I guess that's what the objective here is to sort of dispel the negative connotation. I think I wrote a lyric once that's like every loss has a lesson or something like that. And that's how I tend to perceive regret, as not being something that's so horrible that it just doesn't carry that sort of connotation for me, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm. Yeah. I see. Like off topic, just on history because it's a passion of mine. Just real quick, like just like what your teacher made you do. Like I don't know, I see it kind of differently. But just to say that before anybody listening like comments on YouTube, and I'll express the opposite opinion for them. But just that because that's one of the things I want to go back to school to do. I want to teach history and literature, that kind of thing, and it's all on the same degree plan. But like I think going and talking to old people, because history, it's not, to me, it's not just textbooks. It's not just what is written. History is what happened. And there's like a window of time where you can have written history and you can have oral history. And you can go get that oral history from someone who was there. And that, to me, that's where the written history comes from. But that's just me. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
take
just
your class.
I'm not arguing. I wouldn't probably make you do that. No, my class wouldn't. I'm just saying I get where they were coming from, your teacher.
History is
That's all
supposed
I'm
to be.
saying.
I guess that's where my line is. History is not supposed to be fun. Like I
You
loathe
want history to be boring?
history should be boring because history is boring.
Oh
And
my
history
goodness,
by
no.
nature, like, no, nothing drives me more insane than academics trying to make academics fun. Like, that drives me up a wall. I'm like, I'm here to learn
Well,
fact and discuss.
fun
Don't
and
make,
interesting are two different things, I think. Like interesting can
yeah.
be
Have you
fun
ever
and fun
talked to
can
a,
be interesting.
yeah, and have you ever
But
talked to an old person? God, it's like
yes.
bullet in a brain pan.
Well, it depends on the old person and what they're talking about.
Yeah, and so that teacher wanted me to go and find an interesting old person.
Like
That's
go
too
find a
much.
World War II vet and
Yeah,
let
let
them
me
tell you about World War II, and that's not going to be interesting.
yeah, sure, let me go and do that. Let me take time to research local World War II vets
I
and
love
like,
listening to old people talk about
yeah,
stuff they
maybe,
lived through.
yeah, to
That's
me
me.
that's so above and requiring such above and beyond from students
Uh-huh.
when you're taking a piddly little history world history class. That I'm just like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
where's my final exam test
See,
that I
that's the
can,
kind of thing, like when I teach, I don't want to do a whole ton of extra homework kind of stuff. It's mostly going to be lectures, maybe some films
yeah,
and
see, that's fine.
discussions. But I'm going to throw in the history that they don't teach you other place. I'll throw in all the dirty history to help you
Mm,
remember stuff. And it'll be on the test. Like, I'll tell you who everyone was banging,
right, Bill Clinton would
all
be
the
fun.
scandals. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, getting back on the topic though, like we're really in school. Like I think, most of my regrets, I guess no, I have one that I guess was my biggest regret that I carried with me for years. From the time I was 15 until, like, I don't know, I guess in my early 20s, I kind of got to the point of looking at it as a learning experience, and I'm glad I had the experience. But basically, uh, like all of my regrets as a teen, no, not all of them, but they were all like dealing with other people, like ways I had made a choice that hurt someone or made someone feel betrayed. And I would really beat myself up over that kind of stuff. And I guess the worst one was a sexual encounter that I had as a 15-year-old. And just that,
Those are fun.
oh yeah, they're fine. But then the after is the part I wasn't any good at. Like, I had no idea what to do because I was so confused by Jesus that like, and my parents and youth minister, all of whom had the best intentions, all the guidance I really had about sex was don't do it or Jesus will kill you. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, um but yeah, so there were people I treated wrong because you're a hormonal teenager, right? You don't necessarily have the willpower to not do the thing
Right.
when you're right there in the moment, like when you're out of the house overnight and there are opportunities being presented to you, it's like you're not going to be like, you know what? Nah. Especially if you've never done it before.
Right.
Like,
Especially.
especially because then you're like, what if I never have another opportunity? What if no one ever gives me this chance again? So then you do it, and then you get that clarity
That
after
particular clarity.
a particular clarity, and you look over to who you're sharing a bed with, and you're like, oh, why did I do this? Are they gonna want more? Are they gonna want to be in a relationship now? I have to get away because God's gonna kill me too. Like, and then it's like, I'll never do this again. I promise God, I'll never do this again. I'll be a good boy. Make me a virgin again. I'm good. And then just don't send me to hell for having sex outside of wedlock. I mean, and then throw in the bisexual factor.
Right.
Like, it was just so confusing, but I had nothing but guilt and self-hatred over my every sexual encounter as a teenager, and I hate that for my teenage self. Like, I would love to go back and help my teenage self to just enjoy enjoy life.
Yeah.
Don't kick yourself.
Everything is
God doesn't
huge.
hate you, but yeah, everything's huge when you're a
When you're a
teenager and
teenager,
extreme. It's
everything's
either
huge, extreme, and it's the last chance.
last, yeah, ever. Like, nothing is ever gonna happen to you again as long as you live. You're 15.
Yeah,
This
life
is
is
it.
very short when you're 15.
Right. So, like, one in particular who I really treat, because this was someone who was always around me. Like, I couldn't get away from this person. Like, we were in youth group together, and like we had fun in the summer that I was 15 for a night and a day. And then I effectively ghosted a person before that was a thing, but in person. It's like we're in the same room, but I'm not acknowledging that that person exists. I'm not acknowledging that we did what we did. I'm getting away from that person as quickly as I can because I don't want Jesus to smite me. Like, I don't, I just, yeah, it was bad because premarital sex was gosh, my mother was like so adamant about don't have sex before marriage with anyone ever. So I had all these fears in my head, and I just, yeah, I regretted that deeply, even in the moment. I hated myself for treating someone that way who didn't know what was going on in my head, didn't get any explanation, just got treated like they didn't exist. But in my early 20s, yeah, I got over it to a degree. Like, I still felt bad about it, but I didn't genuinely regret it because I learned a lot, Like, I
Right.
learned don't do that. Like,
Right. It's a
in
very self-reflective time.
yeah. Yeah, like, okay, like the story. Speaking of sexual exploits, the story I was telling you just before we started this episode about the Lord of the Rings, watching,
Right.
yeah. So that one, see, this is something where I took that knowledge and tried to be proactive with it. Is that I don't want to treat people badly. Like, that was an encounter that wasn't planned. The Lord of the Rings one that where we were watching Lord of the Rings until we weren't. Um,
Good synopsis.
yeah, it was an unplanned one night stand.
Yeah, the Fellowship of the Ring, if you know what I mean.
but um, but after the fact, I'm like, okay, I didn't mean for that to happen. I don't necessarily want to be in a relationship with this person. We go to classes together because this was when I was in college again. And I was like, okay, I'm going to proactively continue to talk to this person. I
Yep.
don't have to be in a relationship with them,
Nope.
but I don't have to be mean. Like, I don't
No.
have to be an asshole to this person or any person ever. And
Yeah, because
I
then
can't undo what I did when I was a teenager,
no.
but I can not, go forth and sin no more. I can learn
Right.
my lesson and do better and be a better person. And yeah, I mean it didn't go anywhere after that, but I did make an effort
And this may
to
be TMI,
stay
but
friends.
did there were there further encounters past that?
You
This
mean
may be TMI. Yeah,
sexual
but
encounters with that
yeah,
person? No.
no. So it was
No.
just it was a one-time thing.
It was a one-time thing.
Yeah, because I mean that's how because those are those are nightmare scenarios for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Like the immediate post particular clarity,
Post a particular clarity.
particular post clarity. Um,
Right.
those are nightmare scenarios for a lot of people that are
Yeah.
in similar shoes. Like you slept with a friend,
Yeah.
and now what?
Yeah, now what? What is
And so those are like largely nightmare scenarios for a lot of people. Um, and yeah, I feel like the best way, and you'll oft sometimes be on the receiving end
hmm
of these things where you're just going to, because yeah, I'm with you, I'm just going to continue business as usual. I'm not going to bring up anything about what are we,
Right.
but I have been brought up to the immediate what are we,
Yeah, so what are we
ju-
now? What's
like
our
ju-
status? What's
just wrapped up, and I'm being asked what are we now,
hmm
and I'm like, we are what we were before.
Right. We just have
We just
this in our
had,
story now. We've done this. This
yeah,
is a shared experience we have.
yeah, and unless I feel differently, like unless I've been
Right.
pining after this person and
Right.
I do want to continue, those are different scenarios. But if it's a this just happened thing, most of the time I like to date before that happens.
Right.
If I have intentions
Exactly.
of a long-term relationship. And like, yeah, intimacy shouldn't be necessarily planned if it can be helped.
Right. I
Um,
agree.
there are scenarios where intimacy should absolutely be planned, and
Hmm.
but that's more for marriage counseling basically.
Right.
Like, but you know if it's just like a one night stand with a friend, I'm gonna do exactly what you described, and
Hmm.
like I'm gonna start talking about Lord of the Rings right
Right.
after we got. I was like, so is that your first time seeing that? you know uh do you want to put on Two Towers now? Like,
Right.
and then I'll see them the next day and
Hmm.
continue on with my life. And if
Yeah.
it was good,
And
maybe try to set up the environment again.
right.
If
I
it
mean,
was just
because
a one thing, like
an unplanned, unexpected one night stand, like if it's someone you don't despise, like this,
right,
you could give it an opportunity to grow into something else, but it doesn't have to.
it doesn't
And
have
it
to.
doesn't, and you don't have to be mean. You don't have to just cut someone out because you're worried about them expecting. All you have to do is say, I don't want to pursue a relationship. And you don't have to
I
be mean about it. You can just be
Yeah,
like, I wasn't planning for that to happen. Clearly you were, but
no,
because in this
and
case,
that's the
that
thing,
person clearly was planning this. I was seduced.
right? Um, and I mean, maybe they don't want a relationship either. I think another thing you
Right,
can
because that
do
it didn't
completely
never come
wrong,
about.
right? I think
We were
you
fine.
you definitely do not want to finish up and then immediately say, I don't want a relationship.
Right,
like
you just be
like
cool. Just be
like I'm not
cool.
gonna
That's
answer
all.
that question if it's not asked.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
I am not going to, if you ask me right after what are we, then I'll tell you honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be that. If I do want more, then I'll tell you that. If I don't, then I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. But if you don't ask me that, I'm not going to immediately be like, I hope you weren't expecting more from me. Like,
Right. That's an asshole move.
it is. It's very conceited.
Just be like, well, now that that's done, I want to make sure you know I have no interest in you.
I wanted to make sure you know that,
No,
yeah,
that's not right. That hurts
no,
people. And that is
because a lot of what you're talking about is outside perception.
mm-hmm.
Like, because, your regret that you mentioned with 15-year-old Glenn,
Yeah.
it's sort of like the that person was left completely in the dark
Mm-hmm.
with,
Exactly.
and some of it could be put on them too. I don't know if they ever
Yeah.
did approach you and ask, but they
Didn't
definitely got the hint
right. And
from what
I
it
felt
seems.
awful about it. Um and there were like I said, I couldn't get away from this person. Um but eventually youth group ended and we went our separate ways, but then would cross paths at parties when we're in college and stuff. And like, one time she came up to me and was clearly trying to make a move. And you said something. I don't remember, exactly what she said, but I was just like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I just left. I just exited the room. It's like, "Oh no, she's talking to me." But like years later, like actually just a couple years back, I know I've told you this story, but we matched on Tinder because like I see
it's
this
it's
person
meant to
on
be, Glenn.
Tinder and I'm like, those old regrets are coming up. And I'm like, this is, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, does she hate me now? Like, what? So I swiped right and instantly you have a match. I'm like, oh, hell. What have I done? But it's like, I don't want to mess with this person's feelings anymore. Why did I do that? But then I'm like, no, no,
Curiosity.
no. Yeah, I was curious. Maybe that's all this is both of us were just curious. But like it wound up actually being the resolution I'd needed for years because then we did talk on Tinder and I was able to just be honest,
You're
and
both
just
grown now.
exactly, we're adults and I was able to just say, I'm not really I was curious. It was someone I knew, so I was just curious, but I'm not really interested in pursuing anything, but let's have a nice conversation. And we did. We had a few nice conversations on there. Um, before I ghosted again because
I
but
mean,
this
that's
time
Tinder.
but this time it was because me being upfront wasn't sinking in, I guess. Like they were still trying to get me interested, and I'm just like, I told you I'm not looking for what you're looking for. I mean, because this was a married person now at this point,
Oh,
also.
fun
Um,
times. Some hot
and
wife stuff.
yeah, yeah, it was, it wasn't something I was looking for. Um,
And that's all that needs to be said.
and that is what I said, and I felt really good about it because I felt like I did the thing I failed to do when I was 15. And yes, I still wound up not talking to that person
It was
again.
never meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be, but I at least wasn't mean about it. Like
Right.
I said everything that needed to be said. I said it the way I wanted it said. Um, so that was a good thing, and it wound up being just a growth experience,
And
Like,
that's how I view regret just in
yeah.
general is like, if you have enough self-reflection ability.
Mm-hmm.
All regret is just growth experiences.
Right.
And like the
Right.
quicker you can analyze yourself, the better. Like, because nowadays, like, whenever something traumatic happens or something, the quicker you can pump the brakes and take a look at yourself, the better it is for yourself going forward. Is the
Yeah.
way I've learned to, you know, carry on and have mostly the persona of somebody quite chill,
Mm-hmm.
because like it's just, holding on to things like that, it's nothing but like toxicity within yourself.
Right.
And it can, like, when you go down those, like, I've spoken with people, counseled people who sit there at the bar with me, and man, they will just go through every single little detail of their life, and I'm just like, I'm looking at them now and who they are to me,
Mm-hmm.
and what they mean to me, and what I know they mean to others, and the position that they're in and all of the opportunities before them. And I'm just like, how can you nitpick yourself that much to put yourself into this state when you've got it all.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all of the tools you need to get on whatever path you think is unattainable.
Yeah.
And maybe I just know people that have made fairly good choices and are just happen to be beating themselves up over one or two
Mm-hmm.
particular ones. I don't necessarily have any affiliations with people that are down so bad that it can be traced back to every single choice they've ever made being the worst possible one they could have made. Like,
Right.
I don't really know too many people like that. I'm sure there are people out there like
Yeah,
that.
there are a couple. I know a couple, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think that, if I know them, I probably cut them out of my life for
Mm-hmm.
my own sake,
Yeah.
because I'm not opposed to doing that. It can hurt a little bit,
Right. Well, sometimes you
but
have to for just your own mental health.
right,
Sometimes you
and
have to cut people out, and it is not the wrong thing to do.
right, and
Um,
and I don't regret it at all.
uh-huh.
Like, you know, there are far more things that I can say I don't regret than there are things I can say that I do
Right.
regret. And I think that's the main aim of living this life, is just
Mm-hmm.
have that ratio be completely and vastly out of proportion
Mm-hmm.
for things you can say you don't regret and things you can say you do.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I've got like literally like maybe one hand worth of things I can say I truly regret, but then I can
Mm-hmm.
rationalize away those regrets.
Right. Yeah, that's same. Like there's things I feel bad about, but I don't really regret them. I'm
Yeah,
glad to
smoking
have
weed,
had the
smoking weed at church
experience.
camp, zero regrets on my end.
Gosh, that was
Not a,
funny. That
not
was
a single one. Like, the skipping Boy Scouts to go hang out with my girlfriend,
mm-hmm.
never getting my Eagle Scout, zero regrets.
Good, good.
You know, there was the whole thing of like, oh, this will help you get a job someday. Yeah, I highly doubt Eagle Scout will really, like, I would not, if even if I had made Eagle Scout, me as 29 years old, I would not be putting that on my goddamn resumes.
Right.
like
You're
like
like
I'm not.
50 and you're like, I was an Eagle Scout. I
Yeah,
don't
and then they'd just be like, oh, freaking loser. Like,
know. But who knows? I mean, but if it's like within people the circle of
it is a
people who
little
have
bit of a
done that,
fraternity.
exactly.
Yeah,
It is going to
no,
give you a little boost, but there's other things. You don't have to
yeah,
be an Eagle Scout. There's
yeah, no, but yeah, I regret nothing in that regard.
mhm, good.
There are things that maybe people do regret, things that I have done that someone else might have regretted were they in my shoes, but nope, not me.
Yeah.
Do I regret sneaking in my house and being incredibly drunk in a field at 17 while my parents think I'm at my friend's house? No, No, I made some, I don't regret that at all.
uh,
I had some good memories.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you have great memories from
Yeah,
that little
like
adventure.
now had I, decided to drive that night
Hmm.
like a moron and, ended some family of four's life,
Oh yeah,
leaving behind only like a 3-year-old toddler, then I'd probably regret that.
see, okay though, like that's something. Like there are people who have done things that you and I cannot
Devastating. Yeah,
fathom.
that's
Like
true.
that, like what you just mentioned. Like if you make the choice, like you go home from the bar a bit wobbly every night. No one gets hurt. You get home just fine. You park in your parking spot just fine. One night, you have a wreck and a family dies.
You
Like, I
have
don't know
one
why I'm
too
laughing. I'm
many.
laughing because it's just so horrible. Yeah, you had one too many. It is your fault that those children died in that car. Like, and you have to live with that for the rest of your life. Like,
Oh no,
I
but you
feel
you
like
left one alive. There's
well,
one
I
three
was
year
just
old.
thinking that there has
Yeah,
to be a witness, someone left grieving,
yeah.
and like I don't see how, like the way that
The way we
I
rationalize
can
away.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can reframe a adolescent moment of indiscretion far more easily than killing people
Then
because
quadruple
you're
manslaughter.
yes, yeah. So how would one handle that kind of regret? It's just like life altering, life changing regret. Like this actually just came up today on YouTube when I was scrolling through, and this guy, well, I can go into that. Do you have anything to say to what I just said? I don't want to
No, I
cut off your
mean
thoughts, but I
my
do
my
want to
main
come
thought,
back to that YouTube
because
thing.
yeah, I'm just thinking about like the first thing that comes to mind is like
Hmm.
gang members that are spending life sentences
Oh yeah, yeah.
for killing people. There's that Law Dispute song that King's Park, if you guys want to check it out, it's a
Mm,
great song. And the story of the song is about a drive-by shooting,
yeah.
and he missed the target and hit a kid that had nothing to do with it. And like the whole song tells the whole story from he calls it like, he's floating there watching this person's life, from like the shooter's perspective, watching the shooter's life pan out. And one moment it's them in the living room doing homework and then playing video games, and the next it's falling into the wrong crowd and killing an innocent kid.
Yeah.
And then the next, it's the uncle begging and pleading half collapsed to the floor of the hotel where he's holed up with the gun that he used. And he writes from the perspective of the shooter. He asks from the room, can I still get into heaven if I kill myself? Can I
Mm,
ever be forgiven because I killed that kid? I swear it wasn't meant for him. And it's just like, scenarios like that, I don't know how you reconcile that. It's unimaginable for me. Those are weird turns
yeah.
of phrases because both of them work. I can only imagine and it's unimaginable. But
Right.
because I can't imagine.
Contradictory phrases that mean the
That mean the
exact
same.
same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't imagine. I can imagine anything.
Hmm. It's
I
just
have an
not
imagination.
fun. It's
Yeah.
not fun to
And
imagine it.
no, I'd be totally content in a jail cell. Like
Right. I
if
feel
I
like I
did something like
belonged
that,
there. Like
yeah,
I would hate myself so much.
I would not want to return to society.
No, I
I would
probably feel the same. I've never been in that scenario, but I
I
think, yeah.
when you're 15, everything feels like that.
No, that's true.
When you're
That's
15,
true.
you feel like you will never recover from
Yeah,
whatever thing just happened.
right. It's true.
Your girlfriend breaks up with you and the world is ending.
Hmm.
And there are kids that take things too far
Right.
whenever things don't work out. and
Yeah.
end their lives over things that will be laughing matters by the time they're 30.
Right, if they had made it that far, but so
Hmm.
many teenagers commit suicide over breakups, and
Right.
it guts me
Yeah.
every time I hear about it because I, as a man who have gotten through that phase of life, know very, very, very well
That things
how
get better.
small that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, things get so much better. And I understand how big it is to a teenager, but I understand how small it will become
Yep.
over time.
So
And it
far in the rear view
guts me
mirror.
that they didn't ever get to find that out.
Yeah. Gain that sort of perspective.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's the only thing, like putting myself into the shoes of someone that commits atrocities, I guess is the way you could
Yeah.
phrase it or frame it. Drunk driving incidents, or gang initiations, gang accidental killings. Accidental killing would be brutal because
You
you would
know,
have to forgive yourself with an accidental killing.
if you
Like,
could, yeah, you would hope, like, and some people would hope you can't forgive yourself. Like, it's an interesting spot to be in. It's a weird spot to be in because,
no,
yeah,
I've
like,
almost I've almost hit a kid while driving.
oh, wow.
Like, and it was the parents' fault completely,
Hmm.
because I was cruising in the left lane, and then this parent just pushes they're crossing a busy 6-lane road with a stroller.
Oh,
And I think I was merging into the left lane, like going 40. And so like I had a car in front of me to my left. And so my vision was cut off on what was in front of them to their left, which happened to be a negligent parent just pushing their kid across the street. And so as I was merging, I just slam on my brakes because they were going right after the car I was merging behind. I
hmm.
barely saw them in time, slammed on my brakes. They yanked back the stroller, and I'm able to swerve out of the way and continue because I would have hit the kid if I did not swerve. If there was even a kid in the stroller, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. It could have been, somebody just
Groceries. Yeah.
groceries or something. But I'm just like, you almost made me a killer.
Hmm.
Like, and I I don't know if I'd make it off scotch free on
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, because even
Um,
if it's their fault, you still killed a kid in a
mhm.
stroller. Like, even if you know rationally that it's their fault, it could not have been helped. You are not responsible for that death. You still committed the act of killing the kid. And even though your rational thinking can tell you it's not your fault, your emotional thinking will tell you otherwise. And you'll just be at war with yourself. I don't know how you come out of that. Not easily.
I'd probably make it out through very dark humor.
I was just gonna say, like, that's how I would probably handle
I'd
it.
probably cope with very, very dark humor. Like, we'd bring it up at parties, like, yo, Matt, remember the time you killed a kid? And be like,
God,
and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, no. Funny story, I got his trust fund, like,
Jeez.
no, but yeah, or like, I can't think of many scenarios of where I could accidentally kill
Yeah.
someone. Um, Driving is really the only one. I've never even been involved in an accident.
You've
Knock
never
on
had a
wood.
wreck?
No,
Wow.
no. The only wreck that,
That's scary.
yeah,
That means you still have one in your future.
nah, not if I can
I
help it.
I wonder what the statistics are. Are there people who don't ever have a wreck their whole entire life who actually do drive every day?
Yeah, maybe I'll be the first. If not,
All right.
if
Good
I can
job.
help it,
I
yeah,
believe you. I believe in you.
yeah. I am an incredibly defensive drunk driver. Um,
Or you're an incredibly drunk defensive driver. That's the way I
right,
describe you. But
yeah,
no. Um, I do want to go back to that the
yeah.
YouTube thing
By
I
all
was about to
means,
get into because it's like it occurs to me that it could be kind of a fun little exercise, like the kind of
I
a
like
what do
exercise.
you think, how do you think this person should proceed if they
Hmm.
are to live a life without regret?
I like
So
this.
so this just recently happened. I literally just found out about it today, but it happened about 2 weeks ago. But there was this YouTuber who does video essays that were really good, despite what happened. It was quality content. Um, it was James Somerton um was the YouTuber, and he basically like he mostly he specialized, I guess, in sort of analyzing queer media, and he was starting up a production company to make films like queer films with queer voices. It was a good idea. It was a good goal. But he just 2 weeks ago got busted, like exposed, I should say, by a YouTube journalist who basically showed how he's been plagiarizing people for years, like taking books from dead authors and turning books that are making commentaries on things into his videos. He's also been, and not crediting the authors and having writers contribute, I think, and not giving them credit. And the, um, the filmmaking company he was crowdfunding it, never made any movies, but he did raise a lot of money, didn't appear to be doing anything with it. So he got canceled, to put it mildly. Like he got turned on by all of YouTube, basically. All of queer YouTube especially. And like he took his channel down. He did an apology video that didn't go over very well because he came out kind of sounding tone deaf, like, but he was
Most of them
crying.
do.
Huh? Yeah,
Most
yeah,
of
they
them do.
do. But like, so this guy has built a career over years doing these videos. This is his life. He was hospitalized. He didn't say it outright, but it was so heavily implied. I feel like it was heavily implied he attempted suicide, and that's why he was in the hospital. Because he's in this situation where this is what he does. This is who he is. He makes these videos. That's how he earns his living. That's his artistic expression. Even in his apology video, he was talking about going forward, making videos, and how he's going to do it differently, how he's going to make amends, how he's going to repost all the videos and send money to the people he plagiarized. All the money will go to the, like, he's coming up with all these, but he's going to keep doing it. And like, but YouTube's not having it. Like, no one's accepting his apology video. People are outraged that he's going to even try to continue to do YouTube. He took his channel down, but he intends to put it back up, I guess. But I was just watching this guy gutted. Like, this is not the guy whose videos I've been watching for all this time. This is a broken man who's been called out on crap he should not have done. I mean, this guy, I was watching a video and seeing a man drowning in regret right there. So like I'm just like curious, like I kind of was playing it out in my head, like, okay, if that was me, how would I move forward? And then you know how I feel about cancel culture. I would probably just ignore it. But I also don't plagiarize things and start up apparently scam film companies and take money from people, from my 26 subscribers on my personal YouTube channel. Like, so it's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around what would I do in that situation, because me personally, hopefully, I don't think I would ever get in that situation. But if there were something public, kind of like the car thing, the killing a kid with a car thing, like this is something you can't ever get away from. But him, it's YouTube. he's a celebrity of sorts, you know, and his entire identity has been annihilated because of bad choices he made. And yeah, he wants to do better, but can he? Like, can how what would you do? How do you think this story should proceed? Should James Somerton live without regret?
Um, so for starters, I'd like to say that I'm highly critical
Mm-hmm.
of influencers in general
Mm-hmm.
because it's very hard for me to really know a person based on their content, especially when they
Right.
forge an identity for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in regards to those sort of
Right.
scripted content, like
Yeah.
it seems he does.
Yeah.
Um, like we do podcasts, like you're getting the real me pretty
Oh
much right
yeah.
here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm none of this is scripted.
Nope.
Um,
Like we
I
just have an
do
idea what we're going to talk about. That's
right, and
about it. We might take little notes.
and I regret that. No, I'm just kidding. But so like
Regret no
I
scripting.
yeah, no, so I'm a little skeptical. Like I have this
Mm-hmm.
constant skepticism whenever talking about influencers, and because there's not an influencer out there that hasn't been canceled once. And
Right.
if they haven't
Right.
yet, they probably will
If
be
they're big enough,
if they're
they're
big
going to do
enough.
something that ticks everybody off at some
Well,
point.
and also people are going to look for the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
People are going like how much of a loser do you have to be to go back and sift through every one of this guy's videos to find out that he's been plagiarizing these marginalized authors who are dead. Nobody gives a
Mm-hmm.
fuck to begin with. Like here he's doing more with their work than they ever did.
Right. And
And
and I haven't even watched that video. The one that was the expose, like because it's
yeah,
like 3 hours long. So
right.
I'm probably not gonna watch it.
Right. Yeah, because you're a consumer. And like and consumer media like this stuff, it's all very fleeting. So I'm with you for the most part. If I were in his situation and I had done bad thing, now do good.
Hmm.
Um, I would probably, yeah, just make a little half-hearted apology video and then keep making videos with
Yeah, cite your sources, all that. Like,
cite your sources, cover
just
your bases, dot your I's, cross your T's,
go forth, sin
dot
no
your T's
more.
and cross your
Like,
I's. Yeah.
and just wait
And
for it to blow over because it will, because they'll move on to
because
the next person they're gonna take
mm-hmm,
down. Like,
yeah.
and yeah, there will be people who hate him forever. But if
But
he
guess
just keeps moving forward, he'll
but
find
guess
new
what? They don't
fans.
again
Like,
like they're it's consumer media.
uh-huh.
We don't know this guy at all. We don't
Truth.
know him at all.
Not at all.
If he committed suicide, it could be or if attempted to commit suicide, that is probably not entirely due to his YouTube channel.
Right.
Like
Oh, we don't
like
know what's behind it. That
what's
definitely was
behind it?
probably a contributing factor
A
because that's a
contributing
huge
factor.
thing when
That's
that's
a
all
huge
you
thing
do.
when that's all you do. Absolutely. And and for all I know, this guy could be such a scumbag that he faked a suicide attempt in order to garner,
Right. Yeah, we don't know.
sympathy. And so like I have to take influencers with a grain of salt because they
Yeah.
are no matter what they're showing a piece of their lives. They're
Hmm.
showing
A
what
sliver, just a sliver.
they want to show.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to YouTube,
Uh-huh.
with how much viewership it takes to generate income, you've got to be clickbaity as hell
Yeah.
to get any sort of traction on that platform. And if you're not talking about your suicide attempt,
Hmm.
then you're probably not gonna, you know, garner a lot of sympathy from the viewers and
Right.
whatnot. And boy, that'll do it too.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Everybody's sorry for how they treated you, even though you did bad.
Hmm.
We're sorry for coming at you with pitchforks and torches.
Right.
And just do better. Nobody deserves that, and all of that. And
Yes.
it's a power move.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't wish that on somebody,
No.
but people on the internet are freaking brutal. We watched that one
Brutal.
anime,
Hmm.
um, uh,
Oh.
Oshinoko.
Hmm.
And there is a large situation on that one where a reality TV show star accidentally slaps the other star of the show
Hmm.
on camera,
Yeah.
cuts her face. And a face is a reality star's an influencer or a
Yeah.
model's money maker.
Hmm.
And it was completely out of context, but they were doing a reality dating show,
Hmm.
and it was an accident, but the reality dating show was like, this is gold,
Yeah.
and we're going to profit so much off of this out of context accidental striking.
Hmm.
And yeah, she was being told to go die, go kill herself, all online. And yeah, I'm sure this guy got a lot of that too,
Yeah.
because internet strangers get power from anonymity,
Right. And they
and
don't care. Like it's not a
are
real
brutal.
person
And
as far
I'm
as they're
not
concerned
famous.
that they're
Yeah,
hurting.
because they're not to them. And like I see that side of it, because I
Hmm.
don't view them as a real person in regard to their videos, but I do know that there is a real person on the other
Yes.
side of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is not, a real person, but there is a real person
Hmm.
behind the camera.
Right, exactly. There's like the James Somerton we see on the screen.
The
And then
product,
there's the one who's behind who's off camera.
the creator of the product.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Who's
there is the
living
product,
a
and
whole life that we don't know
mhm,
anything about. Like I always think it's
he
funny.
pays $5 for Starbucks just like I do.
Exactly. And most of his life is probably boring as hell. Like that's what I when I'm editing my vlogs for my personal YouTube channel.
You're like, wow, I'm such a celebrity. I have so
No,
much fun all the time.
no.
I
I
go
was
and do
like,
stuff.
it's funny to me because I'm thinking about like I want to make it clear to people, but I don't know how you do that. That this isn't my whole life. Like you watch a little 30-minute vlog I do, and that's just 30 minutes, not even all together. Like it's separated, spread out, and edited. It's 30 minutes condensed.
Yeah, you're not at the
But I
Meyerson
lived
every
a
night.
whole month or so there in which I was mostly at work or just scrolling through uh
YouTube
YouTube
shorts.
shorts. Yeah, that's it. That's my life. That's why I'm just wondering why I'm still alive. Like why am
Yeah.
I even here? This is
It's a weird time to be alive as an
it's
American in the
it's so
21st
weird.
century.
I agree. But I mean, so this guy's the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like we
No.
see, and I'm telling you, like he did
If I
good
was
content. Like
him, I'd
I'm
just
gonna
double
watch when he
down.
comes back.
I just double down and keep plagiarizing.
I wouldn't see no.
I just
Oh,
I just
just
be
make that your
middle
thing.
fingers up. Yeah, I
Because
just be
that's
middle
my
fingers
thing. I
up.
plagiarize authors.
Yeah, like I just trump it
You
out. Be like, that guy's a
suck it. I'm
liar,
gonna
fake
plagiarize.
news. You know, like
Ah,
like prove it, prove it. Yeah,
mhm.
like anybody's gonna watch your 3 hour video, loser. Like you're just trying to piggyback off my fame, and
Right.
you're
Right.
plagiarizing my video. Like
uh,
yeah. No, so I mean, in his regard, I think yeah, he's just got to bounce back.
mhm.
Like he's allowed to regret it, but you know what he's not allowed to do is just shut down.
Well, yeah.
And
I
I
mean,
think
he's
this is
allowed
thing.
to. It's just not
Yeah,
encouraged.
yeah.
I
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't encourage him to just shut down, close down the YouTube channel, because he's obviously good at what he does. He just needs to do a little better.
Right. Right. Or a lot better if you're plagiarizing constantly. But
Yeah,
he
and I
needs to do
don't.
better. He needs
And
to
I
do
guess
better. And
it's
he
a.
can, because I'm telling you, this guy has talent.
And I
Out
guess
the
I'm a little
ass.
unclear on what he actually does.
And unfortunately, I can't like send you one of his videos. Like
Right.
Like he's done some on some manga series too. Like just reads the whole thing, does a deep dive in. I don't know that all of his
How
videos were plagiarized,
so how is that
but some of
plagiarizing?
them are because like let's say he's going to analyze a film or something and someone did it in a book. And let's say he takes that book and just kind of does that book. That's kind of what he did. Or, I
Wait,
think, because again, I haven't watched the 3 hour taking him down video, but from what I've heard from people doing commentaries, in the brief time I spent trying to figure out what the hell happened to James Somerton today, just I think he may have had some people doing some writing for him who he didn't give credit, or I don't know.
you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, yeah, you're totally allowed to do that if you're a jerk. Like you
No,
have to pay, but
ghostwriting is a thing, and
well,
it's a
but
part of their
ghostwriters
deal.
get paid. So,
Yeah, true.
um,
But
but
if
I don't know. Like I know for a fact he was taking other people's work and presenting it as his.
as in other people's commentary,
Yeah.
okay,
Other people
yeah,
basically doing the same thing he does in books, but he then would do it on YouTube.
gotcha. Yeah, I don't follow it all, but because I mean, publications of commentary on other publications is what you're talking about. He's plagiarizing.
Yeah. Like okay,
Okay,
like there's a book called The Celluloid Closet and there's a film called The Celluloid Closet
sounds pretty gay.
about it's
Oh,
about
makes
the
sense.
history of homophobia and like coded gay stuff in Hollywood back in the day. Um So hypothetically, then he could take a book like The Celluloid Closet, which has different chapters on different films, and he could take one of those chapters and just, I don't know that he did The Celluloid Closet, but I know that's a book that does kind of what he does.
Then he could start
And he could
riffing
just, yeah, just take that stuff, those
that
essays,
commentary.
yeah, and make it a video essay with very little alteration. But
Not wise.
right, but he was good at it. And he had a writer. So I don't know, man. But yeah,
Yeah, you
he's
just gotta
his
get up
they're
on the
saying his
horse.
career is over. And if it were me, I'd be like, no, it's not. Maybe I won't have as much of a
Blatantly
following, but
plagiarize.
yeah.
No, and I mean he's not gonna lose a lot of followers.
Well, because yeah,
I
like I'll watch his new stuff because I thought it was what he was doing was well presented. Like if he can write original content and
you know
present
what?
it to the same way in the same way,
Yeah, it
he was
got to
doing a
you
good service to the community,
right. It
aside from the people he was plagiarizing and ripping off.
right.
But to the LGBTQ community, I felt like his video essays did for the most part do a good service. I think there was some accusations of misogyny and saying some mean things about asexual people that I never saw. I don't I'm not saying it's not
Not
there. I'm
hard
just
to
saying
do.
I didn't see those episodes.
Bunch of
But
weirdos.
I
But that's
don't think
humanity in
so.
a
Yeah,
nutshell.
humanity's weird. We're all
Yeah,
weirdos.
yeah. You're all weirdos.
You said you're all weirdos like
Yeah, I'm
you're
a
not a human.
reptilian.
I knew it.
Yeah. Sex is weird, whether you do it or not. No, but yeah, that's the thing to me is like his videos, as I understand them, as you've described them, reached you.
Yeah.
Whereas whoever he's plagiarizing,
Uh-huh.
their
Didn't.
content did not reach you.
Right.
And so all he's got to do is fix that. Like
Right.
that's literally all he has to do. Is like, so I was reading the commentary by Earl James Cameron.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
You
that's all
know,
he's got to do. Cite
and
your sources.
I really like
Say,
the point
according to
he
this
says here.
book.
According to what he said here was yada 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 yada,
Mm-hmm.
and then Glenn's like, oh, I really like that. You know, I'm really grateful to the author for have written that, and this person for having informed me of that.
Yeah, because I'll look up
Like,
books. I'll go
Right.
if someone's doing something and they talk about a book that they're referencing,
That
I'm like,
essay
I gotta
writer is
read
not
that book.
making a YouTube video on
Hmm.
his essay that he wrote.
Yeah.
And so it's, yeah, all he's got to do is fix that. And he should be good to go. So hopefully he bounces back and learns from
Yeah.
his regret. Hopefully he does not drown in it like it is very
Yeah.
easy to do whenever,
Hmm.
like, because career tanking, yeah, there's a lot of regret to be had there.
Surely. Yeah, and when you're in
Um,
that moment,
mhm.
you like
It's
it's
hard to
hard.
escape.
But like speaking of James Somerton, unless were you about to go to another point?
Nope.
Because well, speaking of citing sources, like there's another other than just looking backward and reframing things that I once regretted into learning and growing experiences. Another thing that I do now is I try to be proactive in my choices so that I don't make regrets. And there's when I was in college, the second time when I was doing well in college, um I was in one of my literature classes. I took every literature class this particular professor, Dr. Northcutt, ever taught. I took them as electives, only to find out they don't count as electives. They counted as something else that was required. So I still have to take electives. I'm like, but I took 30 English classes. But like, so we were doing a mythology class. One of her classes was about mythology. And that's where I was introduced to the late, great Joseph Campbell, who is most famous for writing a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, all about kind of like mythological parallels and stuff. But there's a quote from him, like, because I was watching this video series that he did that my dad happened to have a DVD of called, I think it was called The Power of Myth. And there was a book with the same title that went along with it, where he was just being interviewed for several episodes by this dude on PBS talking about mythology, talking about his career and his philosophy. I love Joseph Campbell, but my favorite thing he ever said that I carry with me daily, don't always live up to it, but I carry it with me. The very simple little quote he said, follow your bliss. Follow your bliss. He always would come back to that. Like to him, that was the whole point of everything. You're here, follow your bliss, and you'll find where you are supposed to be in the world. Um, and do the things you genuinely want to do that feed your soul, you know? And I try to keep that in mind when I'm deciding whether or not to pursue something for one, like my bliss is writing novels. And so I do. I wanted to do a podcast with my friend Matt because we have such great conversations. So I brought it up more than once, and here we are. And now we can look back and we have this body of work that I'm actually really proud of. Um, and if I hadn't followed my bliss, I would regret. I would be looking back at a moment where I could have brought up, hey, let's do a podcast together. Seriously, let's talk about it. And I decided not to bring it up. I would regret that so bad. Like the YouTube videos I do on my own channel that nobody watches, but I don't do them for other people. I mean, it's not nobody watches them, but like that's me following my bliss. And I was like posting my latest vlog episode, and again, it's like I can look back now to when I first started that vlog in 2016, and I see that I've been telling a story with it, and that's exactly what I've wanted to do. No regrets. But if I had never started, that would still be something I wanted to do, and I would regret that I never did it. But instead I have something, an accomplishment to look back on because I followed my bliss. It wasn't something where I'm like, I want to have 1 million followers. I want to be rich and famous. That's not what it was about. It was about following my bliss, something that just fed my spirit. And it's a source of joy for me, rather than regret. And so I do that with everything. Like I will make a bold decision. I will say the thing. I will speak the truth to the power and get slapped down, and I will not regret it, you know, rather than just being like, well, that sucks that they're doing that corrupt and terrible thing. I'm just gonna go away. I want by way of an example, like one time I saw somebody getting pulled over right in front of me for running a red light. Only the light was broken, right? It was like we'd been sitting at this light for 10 minutes, wasn't turning green. It wasn't going to happen. So she goes ahead and goes. Then a cop goes ahead and goes, turns his lights on, pulls her over. And so I'm like, all right, what is the right thing to do? Like the easy thing to do would be to just sit here and wait and whatever and not get involved. But the thing I won't regret is that I'm going to run this red light and pull myself over and go make sure that cop understands this light is broken and that he shouldn't be giving that woman a ticket. So that's what I did. And the cop was not happy. He wasn't happy at all that I had done this because I too ran the red lights. And he's like, well, I'm going to need to see your license and insurance as well. Oh, that was my hand over the camera.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, okay, here you go. But just so you know, that light was broken. She didn't run a actual red light. And he goes, well, that light, that's one of the longest lights in the city of Dallas. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not 10 minutes long. And so
Yeah.
he told me to go sit in my car. And then he let us both go. He wasn't happy, but he let us both go. And I'm like, okay, no regrets. Like that woman didn't acknowledge me at all. No
Yeah, you didn't need her
regrets.
to.
Yeah, I didn't need her to. That's not what it was about. It was literally about doing the right thing. Like in the moment, thinking, what am I going to regret more? Taking this crazy risk or not taking that risk? And so when I realized what I would regret more, that informed my decision that I would regret doing nothing more.
Yeah, no,
So
and
that's
let me see if I can gather my thoughts here. So I'm trying to say something profound
oh
that
cool.
that I'm sure has been said many times.
Unless it never
But it's
has.
like,
It's first time
right.
for everything.
It's like I'd rather live with regret than live my life doing nothing for fear of it.
Mm.
Like, because I feel like that's a meat of this topic that we haven't touched on here at the end. Because what you just said is a very good way to close on this thing. So I'm not trying to get like, because you're
Well,
talking,
I
you're
wasn't trying to
basic.
shut down your
No.
topic.
You're what you said was basically what I'm saying now,
Ah,
and I was just
okay.
trying to gather all of it together into one profound statement. Because you're talking about
Gotcha.
following your bliss, and
Hmm.
what struck me was you said many times like I'd regret not doing that, and what that really is like you're not living in fear of regret
Hmm.
is like because there is the regret of not having done something, but I feel like more people more than anything limit themselves on what risks they decide to take
Right.
for
Right.
fear they might regret it.
Right.
And
Like
I
you
feel like that is
confront a police officer that could end in regret.
right. And so like yeah, you don't, and I mean maybe this is a very elementary example, but it's the best one that I can think of, but it's like asking the girl out.
Hmm.
Like I know people that don't do that,
Yeah.
and like they will not initiate, they will not ask because they do not want to be rejected, they do
Right.
not, they fear what what the other person may think of them going forward, and
Yeah,
they
yeah, I see what you're saying.
and like, you don't take those sorts of risks, and then you live your entire life never having regretted anything, but you never experienced all the things you could have. And that I'd be way more
Yeah.
regretful of living a life like that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like those people are the people on a deathbed full of regrets in the end
Right.
because they didn't take any chances. They did nothing. Like they never found out. Like that's the thing. If you don't ask someone out who you want to go out with, you don't know that they would have rejected you. Like
Right.
for all you know, and you will never know the truth, like they may have felt the exact same way about you,
Right.
but you didn't let them know that they had a chance. Like you could have lived an entirely different life.
Hmm. And you
Um,
never took that chance, or
Never took
like,
the chance.
and
So
like,
take the chance.
I was a little critical of like art degrees earlier in this podcast,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like, that's a chance too.
Mm-hmm. It
That
is. Following
there's
your
a
bliss. That's
there is a whole anime
mm-hmm.
about this, and it's called
Oh,
Remake Our Life.
mm,
And it is a story. The first episode is like an hour long, and I love shows like that where the premiere
yeah.
episode really drives, like spends an extra episode's worth of time driving home the theme.
Mm,
um but yeah, the whole first episode is a dude in a dead-end job. He went to um he went to school for like computers and like software engineering and stuff. And
mm-hmm.
then after a few IT jobs, he decided to do what he was passionate about and join up with a gaming studio company. And it just failure after failure after failure. Like his businesses that he would join up with kept going
Mm-hmm.
under, even though he worked so hard on them. And then he finally loses this job, and that's where we find our character today. He's going back to his parents' house, beaten and jobless
Mm-hmm.
because he's got nothing. And then he goes to sleep that night and then wakes up, and it's 10 years in the past, and he's
Hmm.
making his college choice, and he got two offers. One was to go to the technical school that he did choose to go to, and the other was he actually got accepted into a graphics design at a art school, and
Mm-hmm.
he chooses to go with the art school this time. And that is the story of the anime, is like how when he was in his prior life, he's watching all of these great artists,
Mm-hmm.
including like a singer, an author, and like a artist, like a painter artist.
Mm-hmm.
And he's watching them do all these great things, and they're his idols. And now that he's gone to art school, he is going to school with the people that he idolized in his alternate life, where he went to technical school instead.
Nice.
And so you get to meet all of them, and you get to realize that they struggled the whole time. They weren't just born
Mm-hmm.
talented. They needed to cultivate their talents, and
I'm gonna
they
watch this
needed,
anime.
dude,
So,
it's
like
it's so
you've
good.
sold me.
I've wanted to rewatch it like while I work and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but the English dub is so bad.
Oh,
I
really?
cannot stand, like, they chose like the one English dub voice actor that I'm fine when he's in a show and he's a side character, but they made him the main character, and
Mm-hmm.
God, I cannot stand his voice. Um, no
That's
disrespect to him,
unfortunate.
but
It
his
just
voice
doesn't
is
work for you.
it does he does not properly capture the main protagonist's vibe.
Gotcha.
And it's mostly biased from other main characters he has played in the past
I see.
that have soured me towards protagonists he plays now. Um, but
Right.
but yeah, no, I highly recommend. It's like, and it's a good long anime too.
Hmm.
I think it's got a fair amount of episodes with a fair amount of
Okay.
drama and some good stuff dealing with regret in there.
Okay.
Um, because yeah, it's all about getting, because we've all been up late at night thinking about the ability to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't say I'm immune to that. Yeah, I try to live without regret as much as possible. But man, do I imagine, like, if I could go back to when I was 14, going to high school as a
Mm-hmm.
freshman now, boy,
Yeah.
I'd,
Like
I'd
if I
be,
knew then what I know now.
yeah, I would be the ultimate virgin. I would,
Oh yeah, you've
like,
told me
like,
this.
like, girls, stay away from me.
Mm-hmm.
There will be time for y'all later. Now
Yeah.
is the time for studying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because you know that. Like
yeah,
if you're actually a teenager and you don't think there's time for anything but right
nope.
now.
Yep. And that is the downfall of all teenagers, is thinking that right now is the only now you're going to get.
Right. When now, every moment is now. In fact, right now you are on your deathbed. And that's another thing. That's another of my
Yeah.
tricks.
Okay. Come on. I thought you were about to go down a whole metaphysical route.
No, no, just another one of my little I'm gonna live without regret tricks is I often envision that like that you experience every moment as right now.
Right. So you're on your
Um,
deathbed right now.
right,
Are
so
you?
you will experience it as right now. So right now you are
Mhm.
on your deathbed. So right now, what can you do to change the things that you regret that you did from this point forward? Now I try to think of it like that.
Perspective.
Like I am on my deathbed. What is it I'm regretting? How do I move forward and erase that regret for me on my deathbed?
Yep. And I
Like,
mean,
how do I
that,
make the right choice that I will look back on fondly rather than cringily? I don't want to cringe on my deathbed.
no, absolutely not. I want to close my eyes and be greeted by God or whatever comes next.
God or whatever. It would be great if that's how they introduce themselves.
Zhang
I'm
Chi or
God or
whatever his name
whatever.
is, and Jonathan
Shang.
Siegel.
Oh no, what was his name? Was it
I don't know.
Shang-Chi?
It was
It
something
was something
Chinese.
like that. It
Yeah, it was
was
something Chinese.
It was. Why can't I remember his name?
I
But
feel like
yeah,
Zhang was in there.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull. We could
But
do a whole podcast episode on that book alone.
yeah. But no, I mean, that is the best weapon against regret, is perspective.
Yes.
Perspective is by far the best weapon against all forms of regret, is just perspective. Whatever
Mhm.
perspective you need to take as many perspectives as you need
Yeah.
to try to look at your life from an outside lens.
Yeah.
Look at it from above yourself and beyond yourself. And you know um back, I mean, not to go back too far, but back to my point of, the I guess I just really wanted to drive home the idea of not taking risks, you know
Hmm.
like not going to another job, you know not trying out this job because you think you're underqualified for it, and then you meet somebody
Yeah.
that teaches you and or takes you to the next job.
Hmm.
And the relationships thing, ask the person out. Maybe it doesn't work out as a romantic relationship, but you gain a lifelong friend.
Hmm.
And just all of those things I can't see myself, like, holding myself back from. Like, I'm fairly open to new experiences by and large.
Hmm.
I'd say that I'm one of the people that you can probably ask to go and do something weird with,
Hmm.
and I'd be down to go do that weird thing if I only do it once.
Hmm.
And then and yeah, have no regrets in regard to that. I mean, you took me to a drag show. Never been to one before. It was
Right.
okay. Like, it was just all right.
Yeah,
It was
but
a
you've got that experience
Yeah,
now.
yeah, no, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was the best thing in the world,
Hmm.
because it certainly wasn't.
Right. It was
um
just a thing.
it
It's
was
a
just a
thing
thing.
that people talk about and you now have firsthand knowledge.
Hmm. Hmm. And I'm able to judge those people that talk about it like it is the best thing ever. And I was like, really, really,
Hmm.
which ones are you going to? Because
Right.
the ones I
But
went to, they did a little dance and a lip sync and then just asked for money for 30 minutes, and my feet hurt.
right. Yeah, like the opening was the best. Like the
Yeah, the stand-up
opening.
comedy
Yeah,
act,
the stand-up
basically.
comedy is what it's all about to me, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and so now I
And
know
you
that if I
also
go to
know,
one of these,
what
I
the
know exactly
Republicans are
how
pissed
long.
off about. Those.
Yeah, yeah, something so boring that how can you be so pissed at this?
Yeah, this is not a threat to humanity or
No,
America. This is
no, no.
fine.
So yeah, I absolutely don't regret going.
Right.
You know, I'm not gonna make it one of my main things that I
Right.
do.
Like weekly. We go to the drag
Yeah,
show every
no,
whatever night.
yeah, it wouldn't be.
Hmm.
It's not my cup of tea.
Right.
Car shows. I now drive and own an enthusiast car
Hmm.
in a WRX, and I went to a few car shows and a few car meets and stuff like that. And guess what? I didn't really care for it, you know. I went and I tried it out
Right.
and
No
I showed up
regrets.
and no regrets. Yeah, I've got tattoos on my body, regret none of them. And but one of them was a work in progress. It didn't really look
Hmm.
good the first time we did it. But you know what? I was at a time and place, and my best friend did it for me, and we made it look better over time through lots of pain, blood, and ink. And but now I can just smile and look back at that time that we were both stoned out of our minds, 18 years old. He's a tattoo apprentice, and my first tattoo was by and large one of the hardest tattoos he'd ever been asked to do. And it's like 3 a.m. and he's just drilling into me, with a tattoo machine, I should say. Um, and I'm just sitting there playing Call of Duty. And, it's one of my most fond memories.
Nice.
And even though the tattoo did not turn out very well
Which
the first
tattoo
time,
was it?
the black bands on my ankle,
Oh, I like those.
yeah, they were very not straight.
Mm,
But that's
I
also
can relate.
bands like going around the strange thing that is a human body, trying to get straight lines to just go all the way around. Turns out
Uh-huh.
that's actually pretty difficult
I can
because the body
imagine.
curves, it moves, it
Hmm.
contorts. And but there are things you can do to trick the eyes into thinking that it's a straight line by going with the contortions of the body. And that's what
Hmm.
he hadn't quite learned yet. And yeah, but we made it work. Came out pretty good. He wants to go over it a fourth time, and I'm like, no,
We're done.
no, it's good the way it is. I am not. I am not sitting under the needle for another 4 hours while you just
Dig
no
into you.
dig
Yeah.
in. Yeah, no.
Ooh.
But anyways, I was getting ready to wrap this video up. Anyways,
Oh
I don't really
yeah.
have much else to say
I had
other
one.
than
Oh, sorry.
live your life, take risks.
Yeah, live your life, take risks. That's perfect because I just looked up this because you were talking earlier about just that, and a quote popped into my head that I couldn't quite remember, so I looked it up. Because like what was it we were talking about, like taking big chances and
Yeah,
risking that you might regret what you do more than you regret not trying, but you never really do. I think, you always regret not trying something you want to try
right.
more than, it's than
Yeah,
actually trying and it not going well. Even if you fail, you don't regret that you made the effort. Like you went on America's Got Talent, you failed, but you did it, darn it.
right.
It's like I went to Hollywood and met with film producers and stuff. I didn't get a movie made. I do not regret that experience. But this is the quote that popped in my head. You'll recognize it if I can read it. Where the heck did I put my eyes? There they are. All right. It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door, he used to say. You step into the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there is no telling where you might be swept off to. And I think I love that because there's no telling where you might be swept off to. You're probably not going to regret it if you go off on an adventure, you know?
No. And Frodo went to heaven
Yeah, Frodo went to heaven on a boat, I guess. I
on a
don't
boat.
know.
Yeah, went to the Silver Shores.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, absolutely.
And that
there's
was
that other
Tolkien.
quote.
That was Tolkien from Lord of the Rings, just to be
Yeah, don't
specific.
cancel us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't cancel us. We're citing our sources.
yeah. What translation is that now? What edition?
That's the King James.
The
That's
King
the King
James.
James
How I felt
translation
trying
of
to read
Tolkien.
Tolkien. Felt like I was reading the damn King James. No, but
Yeah.
yeah, what's that other quote? It's like try again, fail again, fail better.
Hmm.
Like, just learn how
Right.
to fail better.
Yes, like when y'all were in youth council, I used to always tell you fail forward. It's
Yeah.
okay to fail as long as we fail forward.
But yeah,
I
I
like
mean, that's a good place to end this.
I
I
agree.
like all of what you said about find your bliss or chase your bliss
Follow your
or
bliss is
follow your
the
bliss.
quote. Yeah.
Yeah, following your bliss and like, take risks,
Hmm.
calculated risks, I might add.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Don't be
yeah,
sloppy, but
yeah, and
try to make some effort to succeed.
when you do fail, look at it as a growth experience. Regret is there for a reason. Your mind takes you there for a reason,
Hmm.
and when you dwell on it, you should not so much dwell but reflect, actively reflect,
Hmm.
because dwelling is stagnant
Yeah.
and reflection is examination. And you know those feelings exist to help you succeed in the future. Regret is not a negative emotion. Is
Right.
it an emotion? I guess it's an
It's an
emotion.
emotion.
It's a
Yeah, it's
feeling.
and
Yeah,
emotions are informative. They have
right.
messages for us.
They do. They do. And like, so whenever I experience regret, I have those feelings of regret,
Hmm.
those are signs to me that I need to take stock, essentially. And taking stock has always helped me.
Yeah.
um Even if you only have, like, I've got a basket full of things I'm grateful for,
Hmm.
but even if you only have one or two,
Right.
taking stock and not forgetting those things
Hmm.
is what allows you to have that perspective that I mentioned, to combat those feelings of regret.
Hmm. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Awesome. I'm glad you agree.
So what are we next week?
Next
We're
episode
or episode, yeah, next episode, not week.
is going to be a nonstop episode of BS, as it is written in the
Yes.
topics sheet. Um, so yeah, that'll be fun. You'll get a very special episode of
We'll just
Autodidactica.
we just talk
One
about
one where
whatever comes
Yeah,
to
one
mind.
where we don't stop each other,
Right.
like, as we're
We're like,
going
oh, but
on a
that's a
tangent.
tangent. This is the whole
Yeah,
episode is gonna be
you're
tangents.
gonna get the tangential Autodidactica.
Right. This will be
And
our truth.
yeah,
Yes.
and so that's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to it.
But alas, it is late here.
A little bit or early, depends on how you look
Early.
at it.
How do your perspective? Yeah, I don't regret it though.
No
Um,
regrets.
if you made it this far, I hope you don't either.
Yeah, I hope you don't regret watching our little podcast or listening to our little podcast.
You got some plugs you want to do before we sign off?
I guess so. I mean, I've got a new short story out. I've mentioned a few times called In One Lies the Truth. If you're watching on YouTube, if I can line up cameras right, everything's backwards. That's the cover kind. It's backwards. You can't like the letters are backwards, at least
No,
on
I can
mine.
read it. I can read it perfectly.
Okay, on mine it's doing a mirror image thing. Um,
Interesting.
oh, dang, Cord. All right. Um, I'm having some issues with my website at the moment, but I am still keeping it updated as well as I can. My author website is glennslade.clarkjr.com. You can go there and find a backlog of all the Autodidactica episodes, all my personal YouTube videos, all my writing, most especially my novels and short stories. glennslade.clarkjr.com, Narcissist Central. Come and stalk me there. I'm plugged. That's my plug for
Awesome.
now.
You're very plugged.
Yeah.
Giggity. Uh, so yeah, come and hang out with us next time. This has been Autodidactica. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening and all that good stuff. Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.